You were an accident. I know that sounds harsh, but I think you should hear me out because this is a concept that gets me through hard times, and I think it can help you through them too. Humans have gigantic egos. It's why it took us so long to realize that the Earth orbited the sun and not the other way around. It's why religion has us by the balls, because we simply can't stomach the fact that we aren't here for a specific reason. The idea that not only do we not have a seat at the table, but that the table doesn't exist at all. If you're religious and you're watching this, you're probably not going to agree with a lot of what I say, but I think parts of it will still have value, and I think you should hear me out. I think a huge part of why we can't shake the reality of not being at the center of everything starts with the concept of death. The way I see it, when you die, nothing happens. Your brain stops producing chemicals that make you have thoughts and emotions, your organs shut down, you turn into a sack of meat and bones, and eventually you'll return back into the earth. The idea of simply not existing is really hard to imagine. It's so much easier to believe that your soul transcends into another space and you continue on. But in reality, everything you are and everything you were and everything you will be gone. I want you to try to imagine a time before you were born. You can't, because it's impossible. That's what it's like after you die. You can't perceive it because you aren't around to, and since you're the main character of your own story, that's incredibly hard to do. The concept of death is funny because when someone dies, what are we grieving for? Is it that the person who died doesn't get to experience any more life, or is it because we won't be able to experience them? We won't get to touch them or hold them or make them laugh. We don't get to witness them exist. Even if it's something as simple as them standing in the kitchen drinking a glass of water, recognizing that they aren't in the next room or in an afterlife, but simply not anywhere, is just really weird. How can people be so complex and then just cease to exist at all? It's understandable that we created a next place to go. The fact that life on Earth even exists is most likely an accident. This planet was once a sterile rock and then somehow it wasn't. And whether it was a meteorite that carried us in, or if we were forged in the belly of deep-sea hydrothermal vents, or any of the other theories, one thing is in common for all of them. It was an accident. And then, over the course of the next 3.7 billion years, whatever single-celled organism started it all kept task-failed successfullying our way into what we are now. Evolution, after all, is just a series of mistakes that ended up being favorable to us. Take the polar bear, for example. It wasn't white to start with. The first polar bear was actually just a brown bear who was born with white fur on accident. That white bear blended in with the snow really well and could hunt really efficiently. This led to it being bigger and stronger than the other bears, and everyone was like, ooh, look at that big handsome boy, I want to have his babies. And so we had lots of babies, and passed that white fur mutation on, and eventually it happened again. And then that bear had babies, and inevitably some distant cousin relations probably happened, and with each step of the way, the bears with white fur were the biggest and the strongest, and passed their genes on until we had polar bears. That first brown bear didn't think, oh, I would blend in better if I had white fur. It just happened by accident. And then we tried to replicate that with dogs and other domestic animals, which for the most part was successful, until it wasn't. Pretty much every dog has health issues due to us trying to speed up the process with inbreeding. We thought we could do it better, but we couldn't. So yeah, we're all just happy little accidents in a long line of things going wrong, and that feels weird, but also kind of empowering. The concept of purpose is really daunting. Hypothetically, if you were created by a higher power for a specific reason, that implies that there's some way to succeed, and alternatively, a way to fail. But the kicker is, nobody can tell us what that is. It keeps us stuck in this perpetual state of someone created us, we don't know who, and we don't know why, and it's fucked up. And then, on top of all of it, some of us have created this afterlife where we get rewarded for succeeding or punished for failing. We go our whole lives putting so much weight on everything we do, even if we don't subscribe to any higher power or creator, simply because it's ever present in every nook and cranny of our society. Whether it's what you do for work, what you do in your free time, who you sleep with, how many people you sleep with, how you identify, if you have kids, how big your house is, how you present yourself to others, what you wear, how you speak, what you look like, all will never be given any win criteria. We've just assumed bigger and better, and where's the finish line? How do we know we've succeeded? And if we don't, can we come back from it, or are we just out of the game? But what if you've been playing Monopoly all this time, and halfway through the game, I told you that someone had given you the instructions for Go Fish, and you've been trying to make sense of the rules, all while being misled by being given the wrong game. All this time, you've been trying to build on Pennsylvania Avenue and just needed to pull another card. And then what if once I gave you the cards and you started playing Go Fish, I informed you that before anyone had won or lost, I'd burn all the cards. Nobody would get to know what anyone else had anyways. Seems kind of frustrating. But also, all you'd be left with was the time you spent playing the game. Who you played with, what snacks you shared, the flirtatious banter you had with the person across the table, and the time you spilled that drink all over your cards. The game didn't matter at all. It didn't matter before it started, and now that it's over, it doesn't matter anymore either, especially since there was no winner or loser. And after everyone that was at the table has died and everyone who knew them died, will the game ever have existed at all? If you're watching this video and you've never heard of me or seen my face before, you weren't wondering yesterday what I was doing. You weren't thinking about what my day was like or what I was going through. And that's not important, and you don't know any of that, and you don't care. And it doesn't hurt my feelings. Because I know that regardless of what I'm going through and what you're going through, neither of us are losing. Because it's not a game. You can keep going fish as many times as you want to or need to. It's part of the human experience to do so. You exist merely by a very, very small chance over the course of billions of years of accidents. You weren't put here for any reason. You weren't created to be anything or anyone, and the universe doesn't even really care that you exist. You can do anything, you can be anyone, you can start over, you can stop for a second and take a breath. You've reserved a booth at a restaurant that seats 8 billion people, and the restaurant hasn't even really been around that long in the grand scheme of things. You're gonna probably have to wait a whole long time to get your food, and it's definitely gonna be overpriced. So make sure you pick who sits in your booth carefully. Order off the kids menu if you want, get dessert, fuck it. Evolution doesn't give a shit if you sit in the back or if you sit at the bar. It just wants your DNA to keep trying new things. To keep messing up over and over again, to keep kneading the dough perpetually, forever. All you have to do is just keep trying things. Just simply exist, because that's all you're ever meant to do anyways. Carve your name into the bottom of the table, who gives a fuck? And after you're done eating the meal, clean the table so the next person doesn't have to. There's a reason people carve their initials into trees. We want to exist so badly, and we want everyone to know we did because we spent a long time fucking up to get here. So just do that for a while. Just exist. Because as long as you're doing that, you're doing fine. And it's pretty incredible to exist, even at all.